How to deal with envy from unknown people. How to deal with envy from strangers. Have you ever had an interaction with someone and suddenly the vibe felt very off? You're not quite sure what happened, just the vibe felt very off. Envy can oftentimes come from unexpected places, from unexpected people, people you barely know. When people are envious of other people, oftentimes you will hear them say, when they're envious of people they barely know, you will often hear them say things like, I just don't like her. I don't know, it's something about her I just don't like. When a person who barely knows you, or a person who does not know you at all, suddenly develops envy toward you, they will say things like, I just don't like her, the vibe is off, her spirit don't sit right with me. You know, these are the different things that you will hear, or the different statements you will hear, especially from envious and or jealous women when they don't know you and they suddenly don't like you. It's because they're envious of you. How can one be envious of a person they do not know? What it all boils down to is, number one, perception. When people perceive you in a way that you are not, they can grow in envy toward you. You often see this with women. Women automatically assume, not all women, but women who are easily triggered, threatened, and or jealous and envious of other women will grow envious of women they do not know. And they do that based on perception. What is perception, number one? When somebody perceives you in a different way, it's based on that first interaction and their first impression of you. So when a woman first meets you, or anybody in general, but I'm going to speak about women when it comes to envy. When a woman first meets you and she sees you, you're beautiful, you're well-spoken, you're kind, you might represent all of the things that she is lacking in. And because her perception combined with her insecurity has kicked in, now she grows envious of you. You might not have ever seen that woman before in your life. It might have been your first interaction with her. You met her at a networking event, you met her at school, you met her at church, you met her in the store, and suddenly she just doesn't like you. Now you hear that she's talking about you and you don't even know her. Another example of somebody's perception of you can also be based on other people's perception of you. When a person you do not know is envious of you, when you are dealing with envy from strangers, it will often be because of the perception other people have of you. You see this often between women who are similar in nature, but aren't given the same opportunities. Women who are envious of other women they do not know, they sit back and wonder, how can a woman like her, she's similar to me, we have the same skill set, we move around in the same social circles, and yet they're giving her all this praise and recognition. Yet they're acknowledging her in this. How can she afford a house like that even though we work in the same workplace? How can she have a relationship like that when she doesn't look as good as the next person? People who are often envious of other people, they are always sitting back, and people who are envious of other people they do not know, they are often always sitting back wondering, how are you doing what you're doing when you and I are essentially the same type of person? We came from the same background. We have the same type of family dynamic. We work at the same job. How is it that you're able to do these things and I cannot? A person who is envious of you and barely knows you, they will perceive you based on their own situation. They will always, number two, not just the perception, but they always compare themselves to you. Again, they're always trying to figure out how you're able to do something and they cannot. These are people who barely know you. And the dangerous thing about dealing with envy from people who do not know you or barely know you is that they make assumptions about things they do not understand. There are so many women who have dealt with envy and jealousy from strangers, from people who barely know them. They have paid the ultimate price for somebody else's jealousy, insecurity, and envy, all because someone perceived them in a way that they are not. When women look at your outer appearance, when women look at just who you are from the first interaction and decide they don't like you, they are dealing with their own insecurity, and that's why they grow envious of you. You represent something that they are lacking, and that is not your fault. When it comes from people, when envy comes from unknown people, from strangers that you don't know, it can make you feel very confused, very weirded out. It can make you feel as if you've said something wrong or you've done something wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, first impressions matter. So if your first impression gives off the vibe that you're not a decent person, maybe you're mean, maybe you're nasty, what have you. But if you, more times than not for women, the first interaction between a woman who feels insecure in the presence of other women anyway, when she already feels insecure in the presence of other people, other women, when she gets around a woman who represent those things that she either wants, has, or has not been able to attain, she will grow envious of that woman. People think that somebody being envious of you, somebody that you don't know being envious of you, is absolutely impossible. How can somebody be envious of somebody they don't know? It's because they decide to perceive you based on their own insecurity. That's why you have so many women walking around saying, oh, she thinks she's better than somebody else. She's conceited. Oh, she thinks because she has this kind of house, she's better than me. She thinks because she has this kind of car, she's better than me. Some women hate on the things or get jealous and envious of the things about women that they don't understand. Let me sip some of my water. As I explained before, I've been dealing with a lot of dryness and stuffiness because of my allergies. It happens a lot in the summer, so bear with me. But when a woman that you don't know grows envious of you, it's because she assumes things about you that may not be true. See, women have a nasty habit, a bad habit of comparing their situation to the situation of other women. I'm going to go back to the example of the workplace, because oftentimes you will see women who envy other women they don't know, talk nasty, talk bad about them simply because they're assuming things that are not true. A woman that feels bad about her life, a woman who feels like she is not where she wants to be in her life right now, and you all might be in the same age range. Let's say you're 35 and the woman you work with, who seems to be doing really well, have nice car, nice house, you see her pull up to the office every morning in her nice 2024, 2025, what have you. You might be perceiving her, if you're already envious and insecure around other women, they will perceive that woman as somehow being better than them and trying to flex on them. Women who grow envious of women they do not know, people who are envious of people they don't know, or envious of strangers, it's because they see one thing about somebody's life and they assess the entire situation. They might not understand that this woman, she had to work and save a long time before she could get the car that she's driving now. Or they might not understand that she had a lawsuit settlement or something because somebody messed up something with her health. Now she's sick for the rest of her life and she's getting this money because she went through a tough time. See, women who grow envious of other women who they do not know, when people are envious of strangers in general, they overlook the fact that what they're seeing on the surface might not be the entire story. And you see this a lot with social media envy. People who envy and get jealous of people online simply because they're perceiving things in a way that are not true. On the flip side of that, the beautiful thing about people who don't know you being envious of you, it gives you the opportunity to create the image that you want them to see. See, I know this might sound a little off to some people and you don't understand it, but having a clean slate, that's essentially what a person who does not know you but grows envious of you is giving you. You can give them whatever side of you you want them to see. And that's why I always encourage women to be private and don't give out all of your information. But when a person who does not know you assumes things about you, sometimes that shows that you are being a lot private. You're being more private. You're treating your life as sacred. And that's a beautiful thing. I say let people assume whatever they want to assume about you. That's not your job to try and go in and course correct somebody's insecurities. That's insecurities. That's something on the inside that they have to deal with. But when people you don't know are envious of you, you can deal with that from the inside out. You can create the image of yourself that you really want. It's amazing how a woman, she could be struggling so bad in her life. She could be going through her darkest time, and yet she has to deal with a jealous, envious hater at her job, thinking that she thinks she's better than everybody. Meanwhile, you're going through the hardest time of your life possibly, but you have Keisha, Kiki, and all these other people at the job hating on you. It's a very weird dynamic between women who like to be envious and jealous of women they don't know. A lot of women have dealt with bullying and all out, humiliation tactics, all out sabotage from women who perceive them as being something they are not. You could be a very kind woman. You could be a woman who's always willing to help. But because you don't constantly wear a smile on your face, some people might perceive you as being mean, miserable, you're not likable, you're not approachable, you're this, you're that. Women have a way of being able to assess somebody's entire character and personality based on one interaction. That is toxic. But women who grow envious of women they don't know, not only do they do that, but they look for ways to do that. They enjoy doing that. And for those of us who have been the victims of people, of women who are envious of women they do not know, if you're not strong-minded enough as a woman, if you don't have that feminine queen mindset, you will find yourself explaining yourself to complete strangers who took one interaction and assumed your entire life story. That is not something we do as confident, feminine, wise, leveled up women. You do not explain yourself to someone who is bent on misunderstanding you. When a woman is envious of a woman she does not know oftentimes, and she assumes things about you and then begins to compare herself to you, and you hear this and see this, especially if you're in an environment where you don't know the woman, but the woman monitors you. The woman looks at everything you do and she talks about you behind your back, or she gives you nasty looks, because those are passive aggressive actions of women who are envious of women they do not know. When you are dealing with these kind of things, it can be very exhausting, it can be draining, especially from someone who you do not know. Envy from strangers, envy from people you barely know, sometimes that can feel worse than dealing with envy or jealousy from people you do know. Because at least with people you do know, you feel comfortable oftentimes approaching them on that bad behavior, or you feel comfortable talking to them about whatever it is they're feeling. But a person you don't know, a person who you just met, or a person you barely know, somebody that's in your office, in your workplace, who constantly monitors and watches you and give you nasty looks and nasty stares and talks under their breath when you walk by and say little things when you walk by. That is the height of envy from a stranger or someone you barely know. In my own experience, I have dealt with women who I do not know. I could speak to them and they just look at me and just roll their eyes, or they always look mean, just those sudden glances. Like, what do they say? If looks could kill? Well, I've dealt with that much in my life, unfortunately. And these are women that you might go out of your way to try to be kind to. You've tried to be cordial with them, as they say. But women who are envious of you, who barely know you, oftentimes they don't want any of that, because you being kind to them will make it hard for them to hate you. Envy from a stranger, from a person or a woman who does not know you, she's already determined in her mind the kind of person you are, and she's comfortable with that. From the first interaction or the way she sees you move around the office without talking to you, she's already assumed you're a flirt, you're a nasty person, you're always trying to get attention, and you think you're better than everybody. This is how women who don't know you, who are envious of you, tend to think. They automatically assume who you are based on their interaction and the vibe they got from you based on their perception and their insecurity. It's a weird feeling, but it's happening every day. Many of you, I'm sure, work in workplaces with women who give you those stares. And let's talk about that, because that's not something that's talked about enough amongst women. Women have this passive aggressive way of trying to make other women feel uncomfortable when they're envious and or jealous of another woman they do not know. These are often your women who you can go to school with for years, you can work with for years. They will come into a room where you are, see you sitting there, and just stare at you. They will sit there and stare at you and try to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible. To me, and this is a little bit of a sidebar because this does have to do with envy, but it also has to do with women who try to, how can I say this? When it comes to that monitoring type of spirit, that intimidation, that demonic wickedness that tries to throw you off and make you feel uncomfortable, unconfident, and unsure, a woman who is envious of another woman that they do not know, envious of a stranger, they will try to use their bad energy to make you feel down, depressed, and bad about yourself simply because they're threatened by you. This is something that happens all the time amongst women, and I believe that more of us need to talk about that, because women who sit back and just stare into the depths of your soul, they just sit back and look at you. They don't say anything, they just stare. Women like that, when they're envious and or jealous of you, they are trying to suck out all of your goodness, all of your positivity, all of your good vibes, good energy, your spirit. They're trying to take that right on out of you with their negativity. And the way I believe, if you don't cover yourself with the armor of God, you will allow that wicked demonic spirit to suck you dry, to drain your energy. Envy from women you do not know, that is not something to be played with. And when somebody is constantly staring in your direction, but not saying anything, just looking, I'm not saying they might be daydreaming and then just shake out of it and be like, oh, okay, because I've had that before too, or at least they played it off that way. But a woman who just stares at you, and this happens often, in my opinion, that is very wicked, that is very demonic, and that is somebody that you do not want to deal with. I wouldn't even suggest that you go up against that kind of spirit. And unfortunately, full transparent moment, growing up in the hood, I've dealt with many people like that, where all they do is come around you so they can stare at you, try to intimidate, and make you feel uncomfortable. And when a person you do not know, when you're dealing with envy from strangers, from people you don't know, their goal is to make you feel uncomfortable and make you feel like you don't belong. It's because they feel that they don't belong because you're there. See, envy from people you do not know, it can be hard to spot when you don't recognize the signs, but when you do, what can you do? How do you deal with envy from people you do not know? Number one, if you're able, remove your presence from them. Stop being around people, around monitoring spirits, because I do believe that's a thing. I definitely understand how that is a thing now. I just was not accustomed to that terminology, but that is a thing. Women who sit back and look at you and stare at you, but they want to be in your vicinity and yet not speak or interact with you, that person is monitoring you. And often it's their jealousy and their envy driving them to do so. Especially a woman who does not know you and barely knows you. Somebody you might have worked with for years, but no matter how much you speak, they won't speak to you. You might be in the same class, the same school. They don't speak to you, but they stare at you and just give you looks and passive aggressive actions. That's somebody you want to avoid and stay away from, number one. Number two, people like that, and this might be the unpopular method, but you have to pray about things like that. The way I believe things are spiritual. I don't fight against these demonic things. Like it says, the weapons of our warfare are not, carnal, but they're spiritual. Like these are spiritual things that are happening. And this is in no way preachy. I bring up scripture because I'm a Christian. That's how I believe. I use that to my benefit as I'm supposed to, and I cover myself. I ask God to cover me and help me to be able to deal with people who may be that way. Help me to carry myself in a way where I'm showing that I'm not going to tolerate that kind of thing. And for me, I believe that the power of God on the inside of me is stronger than any demon that tries to come after me. So I don't care if a woman stares at me into the depths of her soul. I will look back and do this all day. I have no problem. And oftentimes they will suddenly look away, or they'll remove their presence, or I'll just get fed up and get tired of it and just leave. Either way, the second way I believe you can cover yourself from envious, jealous people you do not know, stay connected to God. Stay in the spirit. Stay focused on those things that are above and not below. Because when you do that, how can I say this? Let me sip some of my water. When you do that, you'll realize that you're more powerful than they are. See, women who are envious of other women, envious of women they don't know, they don't feel like they have any power. And when you recognize the power you have on the inside of you because of God, you don't let those kind of things get to you. You start understanding that they're coming from a place of brokenness. They're coming from a place of being insecure. They're coming from a place of not understanding how much power they could have as a woman had they not been a hater and look at everybody else in a negative way. And when you realize that, you begin to feel pity toward that person and you just disregard them. So the number two way you can deal with envy and or jealousy from people you do not know, from strangers, you have to stay connected to God, stay focused on spiritual things, and realize that you are covered and there's not anything they can do to you. If anything, people who like to envy you and assume things about you and compare themselves to you, they're doing nothing but making themselves miserable. And that's not your problem. Pray for those people and remove your presence. And the third thing you can do to deal with envy and or jealousy from people you don't know, people you barely know, is to recognize that when people are hurting, they seek to hurt other people. And when you know that, you will further remove yourself. So informing yourself. I can tell you, when I became more aware of the traits of envious, jealous people, that's when I started getting more comfortable and at ease and not feeling like, I have to watch this, watch that. I have to be fearful of anything. You don't have to be fearful of anyone or anything. People who operate, and I want to make this clear, the emotion of envy and jealousy, as I've said before, that is normal human emotions to feel from time to time. But the issue is that some people have made envy and jealousy their entire personality, and they become very destructive and dangerous because they allow it to go unchecked. So I'm not putting down anyone who might be struggling with feeling jealous or feeling envious. But when you don't deal with it and you inflict that pain onto other people, that's when it becomes an issue. But the feeling itself, it happens to the best of us. But it should not take over you to the point you are mistreating people. That's where being spiritually connected comes in. But people, once again, who are envious of people they do not know, it's because they're dealing with things on the inside of them that they are not ready to heal from. Some people actually enjoy the misery they can inflict on other people because they're envious and jealous and always comparing and competing with people, even people they don't know. And when you recognize that, when you inform yourself on those traits, when you see it in other people, you'll know how to deal with it. When you see it in yourself, you'll know how to deal with it. So ladies, when you're dealing with envy or jealousy from people you don't know, it can be very uncomfortable, very unsettling. You might wonder, how can somebody be envious of you when they don't know you or barely know you? It's because they are perceiving things about you that may not be true. They take one interaction and run away with it, and then they start to see you through the filter of their own insecurities. And that is not your problem. Envy from strangers can be very tricky. It can be very weird. People who sit back and monitor you, they can make you feel uncomfortable. But the more you recognize those things, the less comfortable you become with yourself, and the more you look at them as the broken individuals they are in need of help. All right? Like and subscribe to this channel and share this content. Hit the notification bell so that you're aware when I post a brand new video. If you watch this video till the very end, put the high heel emoji in the comment section. I absolutely love to see it. Take care.